Hey, this is April Pierce, and this is the Frequency Hour where I reach out to other healers, mediums, and everyone woo woo and have a conversation about what it's like to be them and like what they bring forward to the table. So today I am talking to Miss Jess, and I want to know your story. Like, tell me where you're from and like how you got here.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be speaking and chatting with you and just kind of open up and share a bit of my heart.
Yeah.
I guess to get into my journey, we're gonna have to take it back, like way back. We're going back to birth.
All right.
Because, yes, my entrance into the world definitely had an impact. So when I was born, I had sorry, let me take a sip of water. Had some more minor issues with my legs. So I actually, from birth until I was about 12 years old, when I had an operation, I was a client of Shriners Children's Hospital.
Wow.
So that experience really shaped empathy for sure right off the bat because I was able to see, these kids just so much worse off than me. It's like I had a little bit of my own stuff, but, I was seeing kids with these real serious deformations, burn victims, just, these heart-wrenching things. So, being a child and that having influence, it kind of made me look at the world a lot more different than a lot of children, for sure. Definitely would feel more out of place in school, just, yeah, definitely grew up a little bit faster.
Yeah.
Um, and I definitely had, I would say I would lean more towards the psychic side as I was growing up. I definitely would have more psychic experiences. I remember just, kind of freaking my parents out, a few times, just like things like I would have dreams, vivid dreams, and sometimes they would come true or just, kind of be around and or just kind of I would know things, just weird random things like what's going to be on the radio next or, just little things like that. So, um, the mediumship kind of started more naturally as I would lose people that I loved. So, there definitely was an experience. I was thinking about it the other day. So maybe a week before one of my great grandmothers had passed. We had no idea she was going to pass. But I got this strong urge, like, we need to call her, like, we need to communicate. And I was probably 9 or 10 at that point.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I remember thinking, like, okay, that's weird. Like, how
Yeah.
did I feel that? How did I know that? Um, and then after one of my grandfathers had passed away, I was about probably 11 or 12. And I believe it was him, and he had actually showed himself to me as a younger form because I feel like he wasn't trying to scare me, but I was still scared,
Yeah.
to see a spirit at the end of my bed. And, that was kind of like, what is happening? What is going on? Because I grew up in a small town, and these are kind of things that you know, you don't talk about or, don't open up about,
Yeah.
at least in that day and age. I'm very glad that where we are now, there's a lot more openness about it. But
Yeah.
that was definitely,
About it, right?
yeah, we could be way more open and it's more accepted, and people are coming forward and being like, oh, I've had these experiences. It's just opening up that communication about it because there's definitely been people on my path now who it's like, we never would have thought that we would have had that in common, but um, so, it would be sporadic, very sporadic. And then when I was about 18 years old, my other grandfather had passed, and things really kicked up at that point. Um, there was this moment where I was in between sleep and awake state.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard him so vividly, and it was so beautiful. He was singing Happy Birthday. And then I started to kind of wake up, and I'm like, it's not my birthday. But then, I'm like, oh my God, it's my little sister's birthday. So it was just such an incredible moment. It's like there is no talking myself out of this because, of course, we kind of go
Yeah,
back and forth. We're like, is this really happening or are we losing it?
exactly.
Um, but that was definitely impactful. And so I kept, picking up on these things. And unfortunately, a member of the family, they were kind of, it was a hard passing. He passed of cancer. So, but by the time they found it, it was only 2 months with his passing. So it was just kind of, it was this very difficult situation. And this family member kind of, was like upset. Like, why aren't they coming to me? Why aren't I having these experiences? And so, being a big empath myself, I was like, well, I never want to, upset anybody or like hurt them. So I shut down for many years. And unfortunately, but learning about mediumship has me questioning, well, there's probably a lot more that I was experiencing but just wasn't aware of too, because it is so subtle. Energy can be so subtle. And so I did shut down for a few years, and it wasn't until the end of 2022 my husband and I had lost a good friend in a very tragic manner. It was very unexpected and just, you know, he had taken his life, so it was very tough. And, that night that he had taken his life, he had come to me. He had walked around to the bed and, was just consoling me. And it was just this beautiful moment. And, it was kind of like, okay, there's something that is just naturally happening to me and in me. And, I need to learn how to harness this. So he's definitely been a huge support to me on the other side. He's definitely, kind of a guide to me. Um, but I definitely had to go through my own healing journey for, the first couple of years after his passing. It was kind of like it sparked things, my own limiting beliefs because, the spiritual journey, we need to confront these things to be able to, you know, I guess channel higher and just be a more open conduit for spirit. There's a lot of limiting self-beliefs that we got to get over. Like it could be really tough. Uh-huh. There's definitely my biggest thing has, the fear of being seen. Like I was definitely that child who was just, quiet and reserved and to myself and didn't want any attention, so
Yeah, and I think for me, I've been really good to have this personality. Like people that don't know me and the general public, I'm like, I don't care. It
yeah.
doesn't really bother me for Joe Blow to, say something but it's like the people that are closest to me. That's where,
Hmm.
like my brother, my mother, my daughter, I did. Whether I wanted, that wasn't my personality to be like, oh, I care. But yeah, like you really don't want the ones that you are closest to think that you're crazy or to think that, oh, look what she's went and done now. Or, I really crave that support, even though I didn't know I did.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, like when somebody would say, "Oh, you're afraid of being seen," I'm like, I'm, hey, I put myself out there all the time. But when you really dug down into the root of it, I had to admit, yeah, it really did bother me if I was to know that the ones that are my husband, my kids, like of course it would, kill me if behind my back they thought I was crazy, and they're just entertaining me. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's kind of where it got me on the whole afraid to be seen. I'm really good about putting myself out there, but then I had to really admit like there was this level of care from the ones my closest friends and loved ones, because you want their support. You don't want to think, oh well, she's just out doing her midlife crisis thing. You know, this has been fun if that's what it is, but so that's kind of where I can relate to what you said. I do really good with like the general population of like I've never cared much about what people think, but yeah, it kind of hits home when it's your kids or your mom or your dad or your uncle. You don't want to be the crazy one in the family that no one understands. But then again, you want to follow your own path that you know is true for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a huge thing. It's like don't let your fears of being seen like stunt you into who you know you are, you know. I mean, there's a lot in the spiritual development that be scared and do it anyways. You know, there's so much of that. And just because you're scared doesn't mean that you can't do it or you're on the wrong path. It's getting past the conditioning that we go through growing up and in society. It's really just, that healing aspect of it.
Yes. I know
Hmm.
when I first started awakening and stuff, and even as a child, I'm like you, I had things happen that I would just dismiss or like, okay, that was weird, but I'm not going to focus on it. And then, you get older and you think back to those things and you're like, that really was weird.
Yep.
Like I remember every time I would lay down at night to go to sleep, I would just about be asleep, and then I would hear like a radio playing,
Ah.
like, and then as soon as I would raise up and like look around the room, I wouldn't hear it anymore, and I was like, well, that was weird. And I'd lay back down, and it kind of reminded me of what you were talking about, like that in between state. And then I would just hear it just enough to where you could hear it, but I couldn't make out if it was a song or people talking. And I was like, okay, this is annoying.
Yep.
So it would be things like that where I was tuning in to other things, but didn't quite know what was going on. So you just keep it to yourself. You don't go around telling everybody. Every time I go to bed at night, I hear radio playing. No, like I didn't realize that I was even talking to my guides at first. Like I was paying people to I was getting a reading like to find out
Hmm.
what my guides were and this and that. And she was like, they're talking to you all the time. You just don't realize it. And I'm like, but
Hmm.
once you figure out like the moments that I always use this for example to other clients, like, if you're ever walking out the door and someone tells you like you left your keys or you forgot your jacket or it's like that quick thought that just pops in, like that's your guides. You
Yep.
don't really remember you forgot your keys. You. And so like, trying to explain to them to try to decide whether that was my actual thought or did that come in from somewhere else. And so yeah, it's a journey, and I can't imagine anyone in this lifetime right now that's not getting some kind of push to look at things differently. Everyone knows that we're in this humongous change, no matter what side you're on looking at. And it's real exciting to be able to embrace that. And, if
Absolutely.
it's a midlife crisis, I'm good with that too.
Exactly. It makes more fun, life more fun. So
So
Uh,
tell me about the healing aspect. Like how did you get to that part?
so the healing aspect definitely was from my own healing. So I had found we have a local nonprofit that actually pays for people to connect with these energy healers. And so I had gone in and I connected with the Reiki energy healer, and it was, you know, it was interesting. Like these things would start happening to me after our sessions, and I just saw the benefit in the healing support from that. And that kind of sparked me getting more curious about energy in general. I'm like, okay, so what is this and how is this happening? And
That's exactly,
because
yeah,
it,
that's exactly how
it
mine
just, yeah, it sounds strange. Like you could feel energy, like, okay, but how do
happened.
I interpret that with my brain, you know?
I went for a Reiki session as well, and like I'm laying there and I started seeing colors, with my eyes closed, and I'm laying on the table like, hello,
Yeah, what is happening?
like I didn't know if she turned on a disco ball or, I was like, this is weird. But, and then, I felt movement in my body, and she wasn't even touching me.
Hmm.
And yeah, the curiosity, inside of me was like, I don't know if you know this, Rob, but I've been a nurse for 27 years. So like,
My gosh.
yeah, I was like, what is this?
Hmm.
This is weird. And
Yeah.
but it wasn't scary. It wasn't like malevolent. It wasn't, it was loving. It was one person offering compassion and healing to another. Um, and yet I had never heard or experienced this, and I've been a nurse 27 years. So like for me, when you're the person that wants to heal or you want to help others, I become very open to like I want to know about all ways.
Yes.
I may not, if licking the back of a frog, makes you pretty or something, I might not do it. It's like, yeah, and it's just like it really opened up my, curiosity of like limitations. Like I feel like in the Western world we've been so limited of what we've been allowed to know about, and
Hmm.
but also the nurse in me also respects that client's beliefs and what they want to choose for themselves. So it's not that I take that and say you have to do this, and that.
Yeah.
Which is what you see a lot when you go to the doctor. They'll say, okay, you've got this. Here's your doctor's appointment. This is what you're going to have the procedure done, blah, 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 blah. And
Hmm.
I want to bring more back of these are all your options.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's huge and beautiful that you brought that up because I don't think that any energy healer should be saying this is the only way. I believe that we are here to experience thing on our own personal level. So if we can support on an energetic level, and then we can help, guide them to support on, the more scientific level and the more, human aspect, because we are both. We are both spirit and human form. So I think that's very important, like that you brought that up, because I think that's huge.
And I mean, like, people don't realize energetically that, there could be a trauma, there could be emotions that's stuck in the
Mhm.
body, and we're like layers of things.
Yep.
And so, the heartburn that you have all your life that nothing seems to help could be from
Mhm.
unresolved emotion that you are carrying since you were a child. I mean, it's just crazy how
Yeah.
these things play together. I mean, it's not like you have everything on this side and then everything on that side. They all intertwine, and
Hmm.
on the whole, like you said, we're not just spirit. We're not just a body. We're so many things.
Yeah.
And so you have to, you have to look at it in different ways. And so that's kind of what I use my nursing judgment and like to kind of, it's important, and I use it every day. But learning the energetic part and learning the emotional part, the frequency of everything,
Yeah.
it's just it's a every piece has its place and its purpose, and then understanding that your pain is also what transmutes you into this other level of being,
Mhm.
that we grow from.
Yeah.
Sometimes, when you're in it, it sucks, but like after you accomplishment, it's kind of like getting through high school or getting through college. It's not all pretty, but then
Mhm.
there's this level that you've upgraded, that you've healed, and that you've transformed into a different person, because we're not the same person we are today that we were 10 or 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And being able to look at the beauty in that instead of always focusing on the negative, what came in, um, that's
Yeah.
a catalyst, like to get us to propel us into something else.
Hmm. Absolutely. And I'm definitely not a professional when it comes to astrology, but it's kind of funny. Like, I dabble in it. So, like, looking at birth charts, and it's like, oh, that makes perfect sense. I see, exactly why things are the way they are. And, I
Yeah.
think astrology is kind of like a guide, like a help for us. I don't think it's be all end all, We still have free will, but it's definitely funny looking into your chart and being like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. I know. I play a little bit in astrology too, but I can't, talk about someone's charts. But like, just someone had brought up to me a long time ago about the movie, The 7 Year Itch, and how that 7 year plays into like, it was funny how like somebody like, oh, I got married, and then 7 years later I had a change in career, and then 7 years from there we got divorced, and 7 years from there,
Hmm.
it's like this repetitive cycle, um, of something big happening in that person's life about every 7 years. And
Yep.
um, yeah, just stuff like that. It's just fun to kind of like go around the room and like, okay, when did you get married? And then you're looking at this married couple, and it's like 7 years later, you're like, what? Like, but like I said, there's a lot to do with, like, we signed up for this journey, and that journey
Yep.
has cycles, and it has challenges, and it has moments of stillness, and it has moments that things come at you so fast it's hard to keep up.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. It's not all like the movies put it out to be, there's
Yeah.
ebbs and flows in the journey for sure. And it's just kind of rolling with the flow, rolling with the punches, and just, you know, even these little blips we go through, like you were saying, like they make us stronger. And, in the moment, of course, it feels like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. Like,
Terrible. But
but really, when you come out the other side, it's like, okay, I feel amazing. Things are changing. There's upgrades. It's everything in our life is for our benefit. And I know that's sometimes
yeah,
hard to cope with and deal with. Absolutely.
I've told
But
people and kind of like flinch like they were going to slap me because she's like, yeah. But I'm like, one day, you'll be able to look back on that and thank that person for being a butt, and
Mhm.
um, thank that person for putting you down so much that you chose to pick yourself up.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
um, yeah, it's hard to look at it that way, but I wouldn't be sitting here right now on a podcast with you talking about healers if I had not been through it. Yeah.
Yep.
If every marriage I had and everything was just so hunky dory, I would be doing that. I'd be at the mall shopping right now. But I chose to marry people to push me, to make me feel little, and in hopes that I would stand up one day and realize who I was. And
Mhm.
So now I feel like that's where I'm at with my business, and what I'm trying to do is to provide people a place first where they can figure out where they're at, like,
Mhm.
and they're here to learn. Um, and then let them know they can talk to someone about that and figure it out, and have somebody to walk with them. And because I was so green like 10 years ago when I had a reading, the lady was like, "You're going to have a spiritual awakening." And I'm like, I'm going to change. I'm going to change churches. Like, no idea
Yeah.
what it was. I thought I was just going to change denominations. But yeah, I mean, like people, I think they are waking up, and they don't really know who a safe person is to talk to, or to have a mentor
Mhm.
to explain things, like what's an empath, and like, oh, you've been listening to the radio when you go to sleep at night too, oh, you may have abilities, um, there's a lot of people that need somebody
Mhm.
to talk to and to figure things out with, and
Yeah.
you know, you,
So I think that's beautiful that you have this show that you're opening up and you're, communicating more openly with people and having other people on because that is so important. Because we get people who come out of the woodwork and are just like curious and have had these experiences and don't have the support. So being able to be a support or a guide for somebody else navigating these things, because it's not an always easy journey. So it's beautiful that there is this big network out there and people are getting more open and sharing their journeys, and I'm excited about it.
I am too, and it's like, and I find this a lot too, that people that have abilities, or they're trying to, kind of like what we're doing, is trying to go forward with those abilities. Sometimes they're married to people that have no idea what you're talking about. Just like, yeah, okay, whatever, like, you're not for everyone, and I'm okay with that. Like, not everyone's
Mhm.
here to have this big spiritual journey. And that's okay. I'm just here for the ones that are trying to have a spiritual journey and are working on those things and do have questions, and he's completely fine with living his 3D life, and going to work,
Mhm.
paying bills, and occasionally watching a movie, and like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Not everyone's here for this, and that's fine. But
Yeah.
being able to find your tribe and your people, and the ones that you can talk to and feel seen and heard, it's a
Mhm.
big deal, and you need that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Because I definitely also respect that, you know, I definitely believe that we all kind of chose our own journeys before we incarnated. So I think there's a lot of respect that I have for that because, obviously my choice was to do something spiritual
Mhm.
and somebody else's choice isn't that. So I'm not going to push, my beliefs or try to change them when that's not part of their journey. It's, you know.
Well, that we can all like have a conversation about it. Like, even though my
Mhm.
doesn't he doesn't get it on the level I do, I can still have a conversation with him about it. And I think that's the beautiful thing that we're all learning as a community, is that it's okay to have different beliefs and different paths, but it's
Mhm.
okay to talk to your neighbor and, like, talk about what they do and what they believe, and like, you just never know what's going to resonate with you. And just how I was kind of angry that I was a nurse for 27 years and didn't know any of this stuff even existed.
Mhm.
Um, I want people to, know that it exists, and then do what feels right for them.
Mhm.
It's not going to, some people are not going to care about crystals, or essential oils, or hot teas, or whatever, but it could be a game changer for someone that has a health problem that finds comfort in healing in those things.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at also, is just, I just want people to know about it and feel free to experience things without judgment.
Hmm.
Um, and that's where
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
talk to everybody and their abilities, because one healer is completely different from another healer. You know,
Hmm.
her, the way she reads and the way she gets information is completely different from another medium. So, just because you didn't resonate with one person doesn't mean that you wouldn't resonate with another.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Our frequencies are meant to spark something in people, and you'll find you can spark something in one person because they resonate with you on that level, and just others not, and that's cool.
yeah. So do you have like something you can share that's like a profound reading or a moment like that you feel like you can share with everyone that like really blew you out of the water or made a big difference?
Um, there's been a few, but just last Tuesday, was it Tuesday? I actually did my first in-person demonstration. And so that was a new experience for me. It was exciting. And there there was kind of this moment where the spirit brought up uh it was really strange, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna say it. It was the words Red Rover. And this girl started just crying because she knew exactly what it was. And it was just like, how would I know? It's kind of, how would I know? I wouldn't. This is coming from spirit. So, just that moment of, that heart impact, that is like the goods of, the energy work that we do. It's knowing, without a doubt that we're making a difference and we're making an impact. And it's
Yeah.
profound.
Yeah. I know I had a reading years ago, and it was when I was still in my. At first, I was just really interested, so I was getting readings and stuff done. And me and my mom were in the barn at my property, and we were looking at this old ringer washer, and it was my grandmother's. And we were like, "What am I going to do with this thing? She'll kill me if I get rid of it, but like, I don't want it. Like, what am I going to do? Put flowers in it and put it in the front yard?" We were talking about it.
Hmm.
Next night we had our reading, and the medium's talking, and she's like, well, your grandmother's here, and she's making a motion like she's rubbing clothes on a rub board. And I was like, oh shit.
Guess I'm keeping it.
Sorry. But like, there's, like you said, there's no way that, yeah, she had
Hmm.
no idea why she was, telling me that, this, but like my grandmother's like, I heard you. I'm gonna get rid of my water, It was that confirmation that like she's still here, she's still with us, and I've got to watch what I say and do.
Yep.
But
And that's definitely what influenced my, curiosity in mediumship too, is because I was connecting with these mediums and they were bringing up stuff and I saw how healing it could be. And that definitely led to my curiosity in that. And, other mediums kept bringing up, well, you're already picking up on stuff. And I'm like, I know, but I didn't know. I had no idea that we could all develop. I don't think this is, just, for a certain few people. I definitely believe we're all spirit and we're all capable of developing. But it's just a matter of,
a lot
is
of,
that something you want to do?
yeah, I know I had another medium talk to me, and she was like, well, I'll help you with your mediumship, but like, how's that going for you? Like, when you sit down to do a reading, like, how is that, how are you having trouble? And I was like, oh, well, I hadn't sat down and tried to do a reading. And she's like, what? And then at that moment, I realized, it's like me sitting here saying I can't ride a bike, but I haven't like straddled it and like took it down.
Hmm.
And it was like, oh, because, I just thought this was something I had to develop before
Yep.
I could even try. And so mine kind of just comes in as I'm with clients. Like I've never just sat down at the table and like, okay, I'm going to just do this reading.
Mhm.
But I'll get things when I'm with certain people. And so she was laughing at me and she was like, oh, so you've never actually sat down and attempted to do this? And I was like, well, no. Why would I do that? So,
Mhm.
and then I had a lady, about 10 years ago. It's crazy. um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I
Mhm.
think but I think there's a reason why we're drawn to it, and it's because we're supposed to be doing
Mhm.
work, and um, and like I said, it never really bothered me too much about what people thought or whatever. But then you get told, oh well, you worry about being seen for who you really are, and it's like, don't we all though?
Mhm.
Don't
Yeah.
we all,
Yeah. Oh yeah, the little girl in me that, was so shy and so scared of being seen, like cannot believe I am sitting here today and I'm able to do lives, I'm able to get in front of people. Like, sometimes we just need to step back and like really look at our journey and how far we came and kind of give ourselves a pat on the back because, we've come so far and it's beautiful.
I know. All right, go on. I have a squalling cat. He won't come out, but it is, and so just kind of like tell me like what you've seen change for yourself like this last year, and like where you see yourself going.
Um, so for like the next year or like the past year?
What is like what does it look like since you've decided to like step out
Mhm.
and work, and like what is your ideal of, I guess, when you make it, like what does that look like for you?
Yeah. Um, For the first time, I can actually say I feel a lot more comfortable in who I am.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not as scared of being seen. I am living more authentically. I'm not afraid to tell people, of course, like before it was, what do you do for work? And I'm like,
Yeah.
people are they gonna understand? Like, am I gonna get judgment? I don't care anymore. Like, why is it any different of somebody asking somebody else what they do?
Mhm.
It's nothing we should be ashamed of. So, I'm just excited to be, more out there and, just bring more people in, do more healing, whether it be energetic support. I have my Usui Holy Fire level 3, but I also incorporate, like, I'll call in crystal frequencies and, I'll work with angels. So I kind of do that aspect. And then the mediumship, I really enjoy the mediumship. That's beautiful when you can remind people, the people that they're missing so much are still here with them. They're watching them and they're supporting them, even though they're on the other side. Like,
And sometimes
they're
they
here.
take us see as being one of your guides.
Hmm.
Not all our loved ones decide to do that, but I definitely have one that has decided to make it her priority to
Oh,
be one of my guides. So, life just doesn't change just because we change, the body that we're in. And
hmm.
sometimes somebody just needs that reminder that the person that they loved most is still experiencing life, even though it's different.
Hmm. Absolutely. I think it's exciting and it's beautiful and when you're whatever facet you're working with spirit, like when you're actually in that energy, it's incredible to be able to make an impact on somebody else and to be of service.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I do most of my work here. I have my own little community healing center. So I see clients here on my property, and I have the Rife Room, which is a frequency. We're which I, work with frequencies a lot with Spooky too. So I have that room, and then I have a sound bed room that's got crystal healing lights, and I do a lot of energy work in that room. And then I have a third room that is a water-based room where they lay on a heated sound bed, I mean a heated crystal bed, and I do kind of what is I'd like to call somatic release, like we just kind of wash away,
Hmm.
release things that we no longer want to have with us. We kind of do a little bit of emotional root finding, like if it's an inner child issue. I kind of talk to these clients and try to figure out the root of where this came from. So,
Hmm.
did something happen when they were a little girl and they weren't able to deal with it? So they kind of locked away their inner child. We kind of bring her back out. We try to do a lot of different things in that room where I want that person to feel like they've made some choices and they've left a little bit more whole than they came in.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I do right now. I'm just working on myself. Like,
Hmm.
learn thing I can do something new every week or two, and it's like, and then like with the mediumship, I am able to channel some people's loved ones, but I don't just sit down with the intention. If, some lady comes in and her deceased husband comes with her and he makes himself known and she's okay with it, I'll kind of share, oh, someone's here, they look like this, or, if they're open to it. Of course, if
Hmm.
that was not, I wouldn't even go there. But so that's kind of what I do now is I'm just kind of
Yeah.
doing what I
That's so,
do. Yeah.
I love that. And that's so exciting. And yeah, I mean, it definitely is. We're just students. I mean, the learning just never stops. And
Yeah.
yeah, you brought up somatic. I do like somatic dance for myself, or, there's more of a shamanic aspect, and that I'm kind of, journeying into. And I've always been very connected with animals and the earth. And so, I imagine that's going to play a part somewhere in the future with, exploring helping others with that. But,
Yeah.
it's kind of, we're on a journey.
you know, I, I didn't sit down and like, oh, I want to do this and this and this and this. And
Hmm.
it kind of unfolds. Um,
Hmm.
just like, there's some people that just don't move energy really well. And like I've learned, I can pretty much control it however I want it to move.
Hmm.
And then other people can't. But it's like you don't know until I feel like we're on this playground, like this whole other
Yeah.
playground of like, oh, we'll try this, we'll try this. What do you feel?
Hmm.
And what can you do with that? And it's really beautiful that I feel like humanity is opening up all these gifts that have been dormant and that are bubbling up to the surface. And anyone can make anything negative or dark. It's your
Hmm.
and so you've got that group of people that believe certain things are negative.
Hmm.
Anything can be made negative.
Yeah.
Um, the people that I talk to and the people I work with generally just want to help other people.
Hmm.
So,
Yep.
I'm not gonna, go there with what other people believe. Crystals are this or this is that, but it's everyone's intention of what you're going to do with that.
Hmm.
And everyone has the right to explore that, I guess, the way they want to. But for me and you and other people I work with, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to experience when you can help somebody and you can move energy and you can release things, help someone release something that they choose not to carry anymore.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely. It
it's
is because, we've been there. We know how it is. So it's that Chiron wounded healer. Take what you've learned from your own journey and help others. So, we all have, stronger aspects that will resonate with certain people and that could, spark things in them. So
yeah,
it's beautiful.
yeah, exactly. Well, I appreciate you talking. today, and I'm so excited to get to know you. When I do these interviews, I really haven't been able to talk to the person very much, so I learn just as much as everyone else
Yeah.
when they're watching. So tell them like how they can get a hold of you. Do you do most of your stuff distance online, or do you do in person too? Or
Right now, I do everything online. Eventually, in the future, I would like to do more, in town, in person type stuff. I think that would be amazing. But for right now, it's all Zoom. They could find me on Facebook, Jess Walton, or my website is jesswaltonmystic.com.
okay. Well, I definitely will add your bio, and so someone can read up on you and get a hold of you if they'd like to book a session. And I just appreciate you coming on and chatting with me today because I have thoroughly.
Oh, yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it so much, and I've enjoyed chatting.
I know you're going to do big things, so I probably will be talking to you again in the future when I figure out what all you've got in store. Because I just feel like you're on this momentum, and it's going to be very exciting to come back to you and see what else happened for you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been an honor.
All right, well, thank you so much, Jess.